Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Welcome to another episode of Find Your Freedom. Today we're, being sponsored by Wealth Builders Group, powered by Movement. And if you are looking for a loan, you know where to hit up. Lenny and I both used this group, and they're amazing. So if you're looking for a loan, please use them. Today we have a very special guest. Actually, Justin, we've had him on the show before, so it's actually going to be our second time with Justin being on our show, and I'm super excited. He does lead the group Lester Moore Capital. So there you go. They specialize specifically in investing in short-term rentals and getting double-digit returns for their investors. We'll kind of get into that a little bit and why it's really important, when you're in your investing journey, kind of assess all options. And when you have a fund that handles everything for you and makes it kind of a passive investment, it's a great vehicle for people who love their jobs. But we'll kind of get into that. So Justin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I actually thought you were starting off with we're blessed to have you here, but you went into your sponsorship. But as a businessman, I respect that. So get your money. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your background and how you got into short-term rentals?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to make it brief. So originally from Baltimore, was a Navy guy. And, ultimately what got me into real estate, like most folks, is, want to control my own destiny, do what I wanted to do, right? It's a lot harder, easier said than done, but, you grind at this thing long enough, that becomes the reality. And that's kind of where I'm at today, my family and what we got going on. So, so jumped into real estate and the commercial side, learned it that way, and then saw a real opportunity some years back in the short-term rental space. I just deeply believe in single family homes and, wrapped up in America, the American dream, and, just utilizing it for cash flow. But the asset I always believe is super strong. So, and this led me to operating myself, starting off buying a bunch of properties in Florida to now, operating a fund. So it's happy days.
No, I think that's super awesome. A little backstory. I briefly met Justin through a Rod Cleef coaching program. So it's interesting how you can continue to learn, educate yourself, and when there's opportunities, kind of see if you can kind of combine ideas of different niches, and then kind of seeing where you're at today. It's pretty awesome how went from the commercial space into short-term rentals, and then kind of growing that into kind of the fund space. So I think that's pretty cool. So how do you even maybe talk a little bit about that, because the most people, hey, okay, I join a coaching program, they don't do anything, or maybe they stick with one thing and they don't really try other niches within real estate. So what inspired you to kind of take a step into short-term rentals and then kind of grow from there?
That's a good question. I think like anything. Number one, I think to be good at something, you have to really kind of lock in and just do it for long enough and I actually believe this wholeheartedly. If you do something long enough, it'll eventually work. Now, it might take 2 years for one person. It might take 20 for somebody else. But I do believe if you do it long enough, it'll eventually work. Right. So, so there's a little bit of luck and all these things that come into play. But getting into short-term rentals or just real estate or education in general, it's just really what fits your personality. And then I just really believe in life by design. So if you think about what you want your life to look like, and then kind of reverse engineer to, okay, what are the business ideas or ventures that I can get into that can kind of give you that lifestyle? I think that's where you'll be the most successful for sure.
So for some of our listeners out there, can you explain exactly what a fund is and how that works and how somebody can get involved in short-term rentals using that vessel?
Yeah, for sure. So a fund, to put it in its simplest terms, I would almost look at it like, think about it as the real estate version of the stock market, right? So if you are investing in a business like, let's say, Microsoft, right? Like you are going to buy a share into that company, right? So even if you buy, I don't even know where the stock is trading for at this point, but let's say when it's trading for like, $300, right? You are a true owner of the company, Microsoft, right? A lot of times people don't think about it that way, but it's the reality, right? A fund effectively is taking that same kind of concept with a business and then going out and buying real estate assets. And for us, what we do and what I do, that's short-term rentals. So it could be a variety of different kind of homes in different markets. So you're getting that diversification and all those things, the good stuff of investing, but you get a return without being an active investor. And this way, it's just like the stock market. You get a return or a distribution, and at some point, you get an exit and get your principal back.
So
Gotcha.
what does that look like? So for somebody who is, let's say, well, like what's an average, and I'm sure somebody can invest a lot or a little bit. What's an average entry point, and what does that look like year to year on returns?
Yeah. So realistically, I would say that if you were looking to invest in syndications, real estate funds, one, it sounds cliche, but it's the truth, right? Make sure you have enough money or the money you're playing with, that if you lost it legitimately, it's not going to change the way you operate, right? Most guys and myself included, well, I started off with the $50,000 minimum. Actually, now it's $100K. But because I never want to take someone's last, $20,000, right? Like, the harsh reality is if you want to invest and make real money, go make some money first, then utilize that to then grow it over time, right? So now let's talk about kind of the practical idea of passive investing. So let's say you have this money, say maybe you're already in the stock market, maybe you're a 401k person. Personally, I'm not, but I'm no judgment over here, but I do what you want to do. And say now you have this pool of money that you want to diversify and you get into real estate. You've been thinking about short-term rentals, maybe multifamily syndication, but you really just don't want to be operator, right? Like you want to live your life. You're happy with your job, your profession. You could go to a person like myself, and really it's just like, anything else. You go on the website, learn about me, have conversations with my team. And then you buy into that LLC, that business model, and you get distributions that are quarterly. And depending on the deal, it could be a 3-year hold, a 5-year hold, and you'll get projections. And like anything else, it's an investment, right? Like there's a level of risk that's associated with it. But if the operators are like myself and they do what they're supposed to do, they're disciplined and strategic and creative, you'll get a great return. And, that's kind of your first entry point into really understanding and learning this real estate game.
No, I think that's great. I think it's when somebody is a busy person and they want to invest passively into something, I think it's a great vehicle. And so I guess question on that. So how do you qualify to invest in a fund, and what does that look like? If I'm just like a newer level investor.
Yeah, so it depends, right? So I don't want to go too deep into the weeds, but anyone out there listening can go Google it, right? Like there are different types of investments when it comes to whether it's a fund or syndication, but let's kind of look at them as a similar thing. Based off of the type of investment, right? So your 50B C and B, right? So one is you don't have to be an accredited investor. That means anyone can invest. That's B. A C offering is someone that has to be accredited. So there's a criteria. You have to make a certain amount of money a year. Generally, I think they just changed it, but I believe it's still around $250,000 to $300,000 as an individual. I think it's $1 million in assets as a couple, not including your house. And again, like I'm not going to give you the SEC rules and regulations, but that's generally how it looks, right? And really, that's just a way for them to say, hey, you aren't an idiot. Right? Like, you know what you're doing. You've made enough money over here that like, I'm going to trust you to make this investment on this side and take the, sponsor, the person running the deal, their word on what's going on. Right. Or you can at least, you're able to sift through all the information. And you can kind of go either one of those routes. So really it's based off of your own, your financial situation and literacy. And also too, like, what do you want to invest in and what's the most comfortable for you getting into the game?
No, I think that's great, and I guess it's as you I guess you get more experience and you start doing research and learning. Um, I guess could you explain the difference maybe between let's say I just go on the stock market and invest in like REITs versus like doing a syndication, and what would be like the main difference in something like that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question because I think sometimes people use those terms interchangeably and they are very different. So the first thing, let's kind of make the distinction between what a syndication and a fund is. So number one, a syndication, comes from like a syndicate, right? There's generally going to be a GP and an LP, right? Like the GP is the general partners who go out and actually operate the deal. You have the limited partner, someone that wants to invest passively, right? But when you start there, generally speaking, a syndication is going to already identify what that asset is, right? Whether it's like a large, distribution center or a retail center or apartment, or maybe it's a couple homes, and say, hey, I am now proactively raising for these properties. And as an investor, you can go in and say, okay, I like these properties. I believe in the investment thesis. I like what you're going to do, right? And that's how you could invest. The reverse of that is kind of what I do now, and it's more leveraging your track record and your history of a fund of taking I don't want to say a blind pool, but you're effectively taking in capital before you actually have an asset already identified, right? Like you may have identified it, but you're not in contract. There's really no obligation to buy that property at this moment. And really what you're doing is you're working a little bit on blind faith that the operator is going to do the right thing, right? And generally, that's why you have guys that are really experienced that are in the fund game. Because almost like hedge funds, right? Like these are folks that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go out and make you some money based off of my history. I'm going to follow these principles and kind of guidelines, right? And that's outlined in all of the documents. The difference between the stock market is just that, right? Like, it's a business. It's a little bit different, but to some degree, like there's more risk in terms of like you have no control. You don't know what that management team is going to do, right? Like at least in a real estate fund or syndication, there are very strict guidelines. Like this is what these funds are used for. This is the business plan. Where it's like if I go give my money to I don't know PayPal or Google or any of these, like they can do what the hell they want to do, right? They can dump $18 billion in AI, and then the Chinese come up with something that's way more sophisticated, right? And I don't know much about it, but I saw that headline, so I'm rolling with it.
So when someone's researching like which fund to invest in or if they should, I mean, it's easy with the stocks, right? You can go research Microsoft or Apple, see what they're doing. How would somebody figure out if the fund and the general partners or, the people that they're investing in that are running this? What's the best way to determine that?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Like, I truly believe that this is a people business. And it's like, as much as I would love to say, hey, there's a great way to kind of sift through, documents and such in terms of like, there really isn't, right? Like, it a little bit is still the Wild West when it comes to syndication or any of these like kind of private placement type of investments. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way, right? Like, there is massive opportunities, right? And there are people that made a lot of money investing with people that know what they're doing, they know how to go out and have so few or less restrictions than someone that is on the stock market that has a lot of rigid rules and reporting and stuff they need to do, right? Like a lot of us are able to like, this is what we do. And we're raising because at some point, if you want to grow and scale your portfolio, you run out of your own money. And that's how I got here, right? Like I went and I kept buying until I was like, oh crap, like I'm doing great, but like I can't buy at the rate in which like the returns are coming in. And also too, I want to grow exponentially, right? So that's why you start taking investor money in. But the benefit of that is if you're an investor, you get to participate in that, that rock star or that person that's, doing this and that really knows how to identify and operate and find real opportunities. So I would say like get to know the person. I think that's why social media now is so incredibly important. And as much as it was anti-social media for so many years, like I jumped in like probably would last like 3-4 years and I'm on everything from TikTok to the Instant Snap. I'm there, right? But the reality is, like, people feel like they get to know me. They understand. There's a level of trust, and I think use your gut and your intuition when it comes to like operators, right? Like, you trust that person. Do you think they're going to do what they're going to do? And I'm telling you, you'll probably have more success that way than trying to look at an Excel spreadsheet and try to figure something out, especially if you don't understand real estate.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, speaking of social media, I mean, I see Justin and How, I don't know if I'm supposed to ask you, but how old are you?
No, that's cool, man. How old am I?
Yeah,
Old enough to think about it. 39, 39. So not
39.
quite
I
50.
mean, like, so Justin posts these like workout videos, and he's ripped. Like I would think like he's in his 20s, like with like how great in shape he's in, So,
I
I
appreciate that,
think it's
man. Yeah.
good, and
It's
I'm
about
always,
what you know. That's what I know working out, bro. So I'm with it, man. That's
yeah,
there's only so much real estate I could talk about. So it's like
yeah,
this is what I actually spend a lot of time doing. So
for
there
sure.
you go.
And I'm a firm believer too. It's like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so it's like, having a level of discipline to be in that level of shape, does speak volume. So I think I think that's pretty cool. So, you see all sorts of investors, all sorts of shapes and sizes. So,
Well, now I feel guilty
yeah.
of me. Thanks.
Oh man. Yeah.
I gotta start working out
No,
again. Dang it.
yeah. For
No, I think
sure.
it's true. I think it's psychological, man. Like, and I think that's a part of why I do it as well. Not only it's
Yeah.
who I am, but I am trying to convey a message. Like, I do get up at 4:30 every day, and I work out, and I'm disciplined, and I deeply care about my family, and I show that side of me and stuff. But the reality is like you said, how you want to do one thing is how you do everything, largely, right? Like, I'm showing you that, like, I'm not some suit sitting in an office that, like, if shit hits the fan, that, like, I'm just gonna be like, oh well, it's not my money. Like, no, like, it is my job, my responsibility to go out there and make this thing work, right? Just like I was in the military, there is no quitting time, right? Like, the mission is this, you have to get it done, and that's why I operate my business and my life.
So I know you mentioned like designing your life. Can I like shift a little bit and I think like somebody who's like a newer investor, and they're looking to kind of design their life. They're starting out. What's like a little bit of advice that you would give somebody on how to do that?
Oh man, I hate giving advice, bro. But I'm gonna do it. I like telling people about it, so maybe that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Man, look, like, I think everybody, what their idea look like, life looks like, it's gonna be very different to them. I think people, number one, like, be true to what you actually want, right? I'm a huge believer that I hear and I talk to a lot of people, and people say they want certain things all the time, but are not willing to actually do the work to get those things. So in my mind, it's, if you aren't willing to do the work, it truly isn't something you want, right? Like, it's not enough of a priority for you to do the thing. So be honest with yourself, right? Some people, working for someone but being able to, like, shut it down and not have to think about it is right for them, right? So then it's about, okay, what type of job should I work at that's going to make me the most fulfilled, but to give me time to do the things that I love. I think I learned very early that, like, especially after the military, I was good at it, but I realized, like, man, I do not like people telling me where I need to be, how I need to be there. I hated that, right? And fortunately, I married a phenomenal woman that's also had an entrepreneurial spirit, and we both were like, look, like, we want to create a life where, one, we live in a sunny place in South Florida. Like, we're building a house now, basketball court, the whole nine. We want to travel. This year we took our kids and went to Italy for a month, pulled them out of school. And for us, in my wife's English and stuff, like, I learned more from traveling and speaking to people than I did in school. And I went to, high school, college and grad school. I don't remember a goddamn thing from any of that stuff, right? But I remember adapting and being able to communicate with different types of people and stuff, man. And that kind of shit is powerful to me. And that's the stuff I want to pass on to my kids. And again, like, these are all things that are very intentional, that years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, my wife and I every year sit down and say, hey, what do we want the next couple of years to look like? And, like, how can we reach it? And, we've been fortunate that, like, we've been able to do that. And we're still young. Like, I'm not even 40 yet, bro. Like, shit's good.
Nice. Yeah, I think sometimes something like this can be intimidating. I'll admit it. So, like, the stock market intimidates me a little bit. I mean, I can rattle off mortgages all day long, and that's my superpower. But when it comes, and that's complicated, but when it comes to something I'm not familiar with, so these funds, like, I would be nervous to invest because I don't quite understand exactly how they work. But I feel like it's easier to figure out this than maybe the stock market.
No, 100%. And I think that's probably what you would lean on, right? Like, I mean, I honestly, I was like just pro real estate for years and years, especially as I was really getting into it. I didn't invest in the stock market. Fortunately, my wife and I have done well enough now that we're like, okay, like we can't just buy real estate. Like we need to start investing. And
Yeah.
now we have like, we're for a family office that I was actually pitching for a deal, but it was like, hey, like actually, we would like to manage your money. I'm like, oh, okay, this works, right? Like, I don't know crap about the stock market. I tried when I first got out of grad school, and like I lost $20,000, and I was like, man, like I'm terrible at this. Like that's why I didn't want to do it forever, right? But you got to try stuff to figure it out, right? But ultimately, too, leverage people's expertise. If that's what they're really good at, like, and this is what I tell people about real estate, like everybody's not meant to be a real estate investor or even get into short-term rentals, right? Like it's its own beast and niche and stuff. So if you want to have exposure to it and benefit from it, go partner with somebody or invest with somebody that knows what they're doing. And man, you're going to be much happier that way too, than trying to like, try a grueling path of like having to do guest communications and design and all that kind of stuff. Like, bro, just outsource that, right? And then benefit.
And how would somebody who's interested in this, how would they even start to find somebody like you?
Oh, first you have to spell the name of my company. And so, no, I'm joking. Because in that way I would never have any investors and stuff. So like you said, less and more capital. And a great story I found that on whether it's in real life or in on podcasts and stuff, is that like telling the story of how I met my wife and stuff. So we used to actually work in corporate, and this is good for your listeners, in like corporate retail, right? At this point, we didn't really think about truly being entrepreneurs, but so I go into kind of the corporate setting at the head office and stuff. We had meetings once a month, and this woman walks in. This is before I knew who she was, and I was like, man, she's gorgeous. So no way she even works here, right? It was like for a grocery chain. She did, and she was coming from overseas to expand the business. So lo and behold, like we start to date, but she told me like, hey, like don't get too attached because like I got to go back to England and I'm going to get this great promotion and stuff. And I'm like, okay. So when it was time for her to leave, quit my job, I said, screw this. Like, I don't want to do this anyway. And I love her and I want to get married, and went to England for 2 years and we lived over there and eventually came back. But when I got there, where she's from, it's called Leicestershire, right? So when I started my company, I'm from Baltimore. She's from Leicestershire. I put it together, and at first it was Baltshire, but it sounds too much like bullshit. So I went with Leicester Moore, and it was born.
I love that. No, I think that's, I mean, wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that backstory, but that's, sometimes when you know it's the right person, you're going to do what you got to do. And
for sure. Best decision I ever made, man. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, for sure.
Yeah. No, I love that. I know you're like your group is really good at identifying like underperforming assets, whether it's like, something that needs a rehab or something that's just not performing well. So, can you kind of explain that a little bit? Like, as far as, how you pick out, like what you're going to purchase and like then forecasting how like the, I guess, property will eventually perform.
Yeah. Like, I believe in not necessarily like lower hanging fruit, but to a degree, right? Like, in this game, short-term rentals are still very much in its infancy, and I believe, right? Like there is not a whole lot of institutional capital in this game yet, especially as of right now. I think eventually there will be. But if you're going to go out and how we look at it, like why would I go invest in Orlando or Miami and stuff? Not that we don't own some assets there. Like why not go some places where there's a lot more opportunity and less competition? And that's generally how we look at it. So our thesis is we've been in Florida and the Gulf Coast, so that's Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. And I tell people all the time, man, there's some amazing places in this country, especially on the coast that, if you're a coastal person or you probably don't know about, right? Like I live in Jupiter, right? Like I'm not vacationing in Gulf Shores, Alabama. But I tell you what, if you live in Alabama, Mississippi and stuff, like that is an amazing place. And that's where those folks go down there, right? And there's massive opportunity in those areas. And how we look at it is like, okay, let's find these little pockets and stuff. And, Gulf Shores is probably one of those places that is probably a little bit more well known, but a place like Long Beach, Mississippi is great, right? Like it's not too far away from Biloxi. They're actually opening up a casino there, and it's a place that we've been looking at. And we started buying assets there because we know it's going to be somewhere that's going to grow and explode, and there's not a whole lot of competition there, right? And Our other principle is the value add. So one of the things we pivoted into, especially in this climate, is you no longer the days where you just kind of buy something and like the price is just going like that. So our thesis has been, and this is where I brought my COO on, and we built the team out of like contractors and all that, and like really skilled folks that really know how to like add value to properties, is buy a property to where we can force appreciate it, in the first like 6 months, and then refinance and kind of operate with built-in equity. And that really de-risks a lot of our investment, because now, the goal is cash flow, right? That's why we're all in this space, right? Like we want to be making money on the operation side. But if something does go wrong, we can sell that asset without taking a loss because we've built so much equity in there. So, with that formula for us, man, like it's been awesome. And we've been able to kind of continue to buy even in, like you said, like in a period where there hasn't been a whole lot of activity. But for us, like, I started my fund during this time and we've been rolling. So
what's been your biggest mistake in this business?
My biggest mistake, probably buying like a bunch of condos early on. Like I said, I don't regret it, and I still own them. I have not let them go, but there were some condos with some HOAs that a couple have worked out all right. But be very, very mindful of when you go into a property, whether it's a home or condo that has an HOA. I generally don't buy in HOAs anymore because those things can change. So even if it's allowed or there's like minimal restrictions, understand that these are human beings out here that are making up rules, and like, Jesus, all it takes is somebody to get really pissed off or like not like the way something's happening, and things can change very quickly. So that's something that like I would not have done. But it is what it is.
And how about your biggest success?
Oh, what did you say? Oh, my biggest success. Okay. Biggest success. Oh, man. So right now we actually have an overseas partner that has deployed quite a bit of capital with us. And really that comes from a combination of just figuring out what this thesis is, really being consistent in social media and reputation. Like to me, bro, like I'm not the smartest guy out there. Like, I don't come from any kind of pedigree of like, super business people or relationships, but I deeply believe like if you just remain consistent, this goes back to my initial message, man, you keep doing something and you just try to get better at it every day. And that's true for like working out or all these other things, bro, it is going to work. And I think most people just, I don't want to say fail in life, but screw that. They fail in life or they end up getting disgruntled and they're like, oh, this shit doesn't work. It's because they just didn't do it long enough. Right. And it's just the truth. Like you have to keep pushing because everything's hard. Like you want to have a good life. Like it's going to be hard. Like there's no easy button or route to like actually building something incredible. And anyone that's successful knows that. And that's why they get so pissed off when people make it seem like everything's just easy, because there's a lot of nights and days of like, fuck, like, I don't know if this thing's going to work. I'm trying my hardest and stuff. And if you just continue to push and don't quit, like it will work.
I think that's a super powerful message. And I think to your point, there's a lot of people like quit too soon or they don't put enough time into it and they expect immediate returns. So
instant gratification, man. And unfortunately we live in that world. And if I could teach my kids anything, it's like, bro, like you have to be persistent and like have patience and just continue to grind it out every single day. Cause like, everything's not fast, man. Like most things, it's not going to come fast. It's just not.
So like, where are you at right now with kind of like where you're moving your fund? Like, is there is there an end game or like what's the next stage for you, I guess?
Like I think now, my wife and I, we've started investing in some other businesses. I think I like the fund model because what we can start doing too is like acquiring businesses that we like, right? And understanding real estate and the principles of this, like it's not too dissimilar from that. But when it comes to the real estate side, I just want to continue to acquire and grow. This has always been a legacy play for me. And what the value add side does is allows us to continue to buy. And then we're starting to set up all our businesses now, especially newer ones, but even like my real estate business as like having an exit, right? Like building processes to where I could eventually sell it if I choose to. I have no intentions to sell. I want to just hold on to anything and everything, even those condos. Like I think I'm breaking even on a couple of them and stuff. I'm like, screw it. Like I'm still paying it down, still getting tax benefits and stuff. Like the goal is like I got 4 kids, maybe I'll have another one to pass it on to them. And if I've done a good job, like they'll live off the cash flow or build some businesses. And if I didn't, they'll sell it all and, just take the money and run, man. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of end game. We kind of just continue to grow and just acquire and stuff, man. Ownership.
You said something that I've always been big on in real estate in general. And, you said you didn't come from a lineage of this. You didn't have a history or anybody to teach you. And something I've always really appreciated about short-term rentals and real estate is that it's not rocket science. I mean, it's not incredibly easy always either, but it's not rocket science. And I think it's one of the easiest ways for people in this country to become an entrepreneur.
100%. I couldn't agree more with you. And like, it is easy. Like it's not complicated, right? Like it's hard. Don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, like you can look at some of the most successful folks in real estate and like they are not like Rhodes scholars with PhDs from Harvard and Yale, right? Like these are people like that are hustlers that like are like, you know what, by any means necessary, like I'm going to figure this thing out and stuff. Like look at the Grant Cardones of the world, like him or not, like you got to respect his hustle and what he's done for his family and how he's continued to grow and evolve, and that's what you have to be. And if you have that spirit, man, like real estate's a great place to jump in and stuff, man. I come from Baltimore. Like, man, that place, I don't know if you've been there, man, it's a crap hole. I don't care. Like, I'll tell people that too. But like, I'm so glad, like, I was raised there because I come here in some places and it's like, man, there, if you have a little bit of heart and a willingness to just like suck it up and deal with it being hard, man, you could do anything in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that message. I think you have to understand the extremes of something of the opposite to really appreciate like success. And so, it's like you have to have that grind or have those sort of experiences to kind of, understand, what's in front of you and the opportunities that are available. So, yeah, I think that's great. I know you talked about like even purchasing businesses. I know Cody Sanchez has made it kind of sexy, like, go buy a business and baby boomers are
Going
they're
away
retiring
business,
soon.
like throwing them outside, just go grab one. Yeah. Who's that? I gotta find out who that is. Cody, what's his name? Cody who?
Cody Sanchez. So Cody Sanchez, like she's made it super popular. Like that's like,
okay, cool.
And she talks about that. And, but yeah, I know you're designing your life and you've created, all sorts of like maybe alternative like income streams. So maybe you can like speak on that a little bit and like, what's your thoughts on that? Like long term?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great one, man. I mean, I think it's also important to be real with people. Like I never want to ever come off, especially it's funny, man. I tend to look at these things through the prism of like, what would I tell my kids, right? I always want them to always like, if you want to do something, don't allow anyone to tell you like you can't do it, right? But also to live in reality, right? Like, a lot of what we see on TV and social media and stuff like that is marketing, right? Like it's done with a purpose, right? And there may be some good intentions behind it. Sometimes it's bad, but understand when, I don't know who this Cody person is, but so I won't use that person as an example, but like generally like this stuff is going to be spun through the lens of, man, like anybody can do it super easy. Understand that is just a way to get you in here, to tell you what you want, to give you what you actually need. But if you go in with that mindset of like, again, it always goes back to like, are you willing to like do you really actually want it, right? Like, are you willing to grind it out and do what you want to do? You can make money in anything. And that's kind of how we look at it. I don't believe that if you're somebody, I think it's a much easier way to go try to make money doing something, whether it's an online business. Man, this internet money is stupid, bro. Like if you can go out there and you got information, you can do a coaching coach or do some kind of service-based thing, go make money first and then go invest. Like it's going to be a much easier road than trying to go from zero and going straight into an investor, right? Doesn't mean you can't do it, right? Like there are loads of people that have done that before, but I would encourage people to use businesses to bring in income so that you can use that income to go invest. And it'll cycle so much faster. And that's one of the things I had to learn. And while my wife and I started like dabbling in other things, and luckily, like I said, man, she's a rock star. She's great at marketing. We built business together. We have like a foundation now to help with financial literacy, and that's one of the things that Lenny and I have spoken about, and I just believe in, because all the tools are here, right? Like it's so cool because like I've flown around the world, especially this last year, building relationships with folks, and like I went to Cuba, which is cool, or I spoke in Colombia, and there's these older guys that like sit down and just give me the game of like how you can set up, different charities, organizations, or businesses to really like, to shield you from taxes, like legally, or to increase income and all these things. And it's like, it's there for anyone, right? Like you don't have to have some special designation to take advantage of the stuff out there, but most people just don't understand or know these things exist. So that's kind of one of the things I'm passionate about now as well. Is like getting that information out there to say, hey man, I don't care where you come from. Like you can do it too. Like you just need to follow a blueprint. Mm-hmm. That was 100%. A lot, but I want to get that off.
And
no, that was good.
Hard. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
I don't know if I answered your question. I'm really in bad habit of doing it.
No.
So that was good. Go back, bro. Just be like, hey, man, you didn't answer that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll get to it. Cool. That's my jam.
I think for me that's perfect, and I think to your point, I think as it's almost like different tiers. Like you start learning, and then you start learning that there's that much more things that you can learn to kind of, first you want to buy your first, you make income, then you learn that there's abilities to invest in different ways. And then it's like learning to shield the additional income that you're earning through different tax vehicles. So, I think that's great, because I think to your point, it's you got to start at one, somewhere, and then you kind of, you slowly build yourself up.
It's steps, man. It's steps. And like people just don't be afraid to keep going to the next step. And one of the coolest things that I've learned, and is like, you'll start one place and you realize you get to another place and you're like, oh, wow, like you thought that was money or something. All right. It was like, it was funny when my wife and I were watching, like, we watched Southern Charm. I actually like that show a lot. So I like the South, man. And this chick was on there, and she's a doctor, and she's a great surgeon. She's like, I make $400,000 a year, like said it proudly and stuff like that, and salute to her and stuff. But like, when you really start making money and stuff, like, with our businesses, like we do that in like 3 weeks and stuff. Right. And my wife was sick. Right. And it's like, you're like, there's levels to the amount of income that you can make for businesses, from investing and stuff. And the way that I think about money, there's somebody that's in a much higher tier than me. It's like laughing at what I do. Right. But it's cool though. I'm like, okay, I want to get there too. Like, give me the game. Right. But you have to be willing to go out there and get the game, and understand that you don't know, but like, man, it's out there for you to get. Mm-hmm. And I always want to get that message back. It's there. Like, stop complaining. Like, go find it. I promise you it's there.
And that's something too I've found with the short-term rental community, is that there's so many awesome people within the community that are going for it. So when you go to like the conferences, don't get me wrong, great content, people speaking, but what I get even more out of the conferences is the network and the building of relationships. And that's where you have these conversations with these people and you find out what's possible. I mean, you could Google it, but that's nothing like.
Nah, the people's everything. No, 100%. Because you need to see it. You need to see somebody that is doing it, that can speak to it with some passion, because it's not the same. And it's the reason why, like, and I say this a lot, you could chat GPT like 99% of the shit out there. Like legitimately. Like there's nothing you can't find, right? But there's something magical about actually seeing somebody, either like you relate to them, they're from a place where you're from, they have the same background, that's actually doing it, that just is so much more powerful. And I think is a great motivating tool to use in order for you to take it to the next step.
I like it. So kind of speaking of like freedom. So, what does freedom mean to you? Finding your freedom?
Bro, doing what I want to do, man. Like I've kept answering this question until I get down to this point. Like that is it, bro. Like doing what I want to do when I want to do it, man. And that's it. Like I said, I got a lot of kids. Like there's a lot of football games. I'm a football dad now. It's like Saturday and Sunday, school events, and the happiest thing that makes me is being able to, anytime they have anything, like I can be there for them, man. Like that's the most important thing in the world to me. Mm-hmm. Not to ask permission to do it. That's let me add that caveat.
Yeah. No, I love it. No, I think, to your point, it's families, everything. And, being able to kind of support their dreams and the things that they enjoy. So, I feel like there's going to be a lot of listeners who, they're interested in kind of like, the fund that you have. And so how can people connect?
Sure. Like I said, so you can Google Justin C. Mosley. I probably will come up and stuff. Just make sure you add the C. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. I'm pretty responsive on those things. If you get a weird message, probably like my assistant. So just FYI, but I'll get back to you. And then LMCSTR is the website. You can still Google Lester Moore Capital. It's actually easier because I'm the only person that does come up, or the business, so it's good. So it actually works out in some ways. You can take a look, and you can go into our portal and see what kind of opportunities we have, and you can talk to myself or somebody on my team if you want a deeper understanding of maybe some of the tax benefits it can provide, cash flow distributions and stuff, man. But yeah, like just reach out. Like I'm always down to talk real estate. Like I love this game. It's given me an incredible life.
Perfect.
Yeah, real quick, because sorry, not to go backwards here, but you did mention tax benefits.
Yeah.
So is, I know bonus depreciation is kind of in limbo right now at the moment, but is bonus depreciation a benefit, a tax write-off that's part of this?
It is, and we are I have some really cool attorneys that are, doing the oil and gas game of actually being able to help out with passing that on. And it's one of the biggest things that I talk to folks about. Like I have more people probably investing with me. They're trying to shield income. They're more concerned with that than the cash flow side and stuff. So that's one of the things that we really put a focus in on. Because you guys know, like they're the massive benefits of the way the IRS code was written for short-term rentals. And we're trying to make sure we can capture that and pass it on to our investors.
Nice. Awesome.
That's a huge benefit. Yeah. So yeah. That alone is a reason to invest.
Yeah.
So
I haven't paid taxes in 88. It hasn't been that long, but it's been close. This has been close.
Nice.
There you go. All right. So I think we're gonna conclude the show with a big boom session. Lenny does it the best, but he's not here. So, we're going to do a countdown, and then on 3, we're going to do a big boom. We're going to shatter some speakers. So, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's roll.
All right, let's do this. All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom! All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for, being on the show. For all our listeners, please, share this with your friends, family. The way we can grow and kind of have more people like Justin on the show is, by putting in a 5-star review. So please share this. And Justin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. You guys have been great. I've known you guys now, like virtually for years now, man. So Appreciate you thinking about me, man. And if there's anything I ever can do to help you guys move the needle, man, please reach out, bro.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.